said it off air. Tony Ferguson, Danny Castillo, that's no bias.
That's not the makings of a pay-per-view co-main event on any card anywhere. And that's no disrespect to Last Call Danny Castillo, who's tough as hell, has a fun nickname, He's one of those guys you can enjoy when he's on the prelims of any fight. And Tony Ferguson is an Ultimate Fighter winner. Not that many people remember that, but he is. And, there's nothing wrong with either of these fighters in terms of their competence or ability. It's just...
No disrespect to either fighter here. It's just I feel that the undercard for this show belongs on a fight night, not a pay-per-view.
Yeah, the main card is a prelim card for other cards.
Let's start with the prelims, and the only one that really catches, well, I should say two fights that catch my eye. Scott Jorgensen against Henry
Cejudo. An
and
Olympian
against...
Sorry, I was just going to say he's an Olympian making his UFC debut.
So that's why it's important, and Jorgensen definitely a good first test. And Lorenz Larkin against Derek Brunson, which has potential to be fight of the night, in my opinion.
It's, you talked earlier about whether a fighter is a loser goes home type of fight, and I wouldn't say that Larkin is done if he takes a third straight loss, but it is kind of important for him to get back on track here, because the last really important win he had was a unanimous decision over Robbie Lawler in Strikeforce, and that was 2 years ago.
So what I'm saying is, when it comes to this fight, I'm predicting a fight of the night bonus here, because Larkin with his back against the wall is either, get beat again or basically throw everything at your opponent, including the kitchen sink. And those fights tend to be slobber knockers, so to speak.
Yeah, and I've felt bad for Brunson because he's one of those guys that everybody that's faced Yoel Romero, I've always predicted that Romero is going to gas out and get tired because of his age and because of all his muscle. And somehow, over and over again, Romero always pulls a rabbit out of the hat, and he did in the third round of the fight with Brunson, a fight that I was pretty clear that Brunson was winning up to that point. So you know that Brunson's got something to prove in this match.
Looking at the main card, Yancy Medeiros against Damon Jackson. Okay.
Yeah. To show you how unnotable this card is, type in UFC 177 on Wikipedia, and one half of the first two fights on the pay-per-view, the other guy doesn't even have a wiki entry.
Which isn't fair. I mean, I could go and create a wiki page for some of these guys who don't have them. I mean, it's not, that shouldn't be a judgment. It's more just, if you want to find out more on these guys, look at their shirt on.
On the same token, Wikipedia will delete a page for a lack of notability. If you're not considered a top-flight important guy in sports, they will remove your page.
Exactly. Pereira's coming off his UFC debut, beating Colton Smith back in June, and he's 10-0.
Yeah, so, wasn't I at that fight? I believe that was the one in San Antonio.
Swanson and Stevens.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, 38 seconds, rear naked choke.
Yeah, that was a good fight, and it's kind of a shame he doesn't have a wiki page. I would have given him one after that.
Well, Pereira's facing Ramsey Nijum, and
speaking of guys from Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah, Ultimate Fighter alum for sure, but man, I don't like his chances.
Well, it's not that Nijum isn't a good fighter. I mean, he won his last two fights. He got a unanimous decision over Justin Edwards, and Beneil Dariush, who a lot of people are really high on right now, he actually finished him at 420 of the first round in Abu Dhabi.
420.
Yeah, I'm sure Ed toked one up for that.
Was Diaz involved?
No. But there were definitely plenty of Ramsey smoked him jokes after the end of that fight. I remember the tweets.
Why don't you talk about the history between Correa and Basler?
Where do you want me to begin, really?
Well, basically the whole Ronda Rousey connection, I guess.
Well, yeah, there's the four horsewomen, and Basler is friends with Rousey. She's considered part of the horsewomen. And Betch Correa has made it a personal mission of hers to go on a tear and beat all of the horsewomen. She says, I'm coming after them one by one, and then I'm going to get Rousey.
which is an old school wrestling tactic when someone, wants to take power at a stable. And what do you think her chances are of making another victory against a horsewoman?
Well, she's 8-0 and not necessarily known for her knockout power. She's only got one TKO against somebody that I've never heard of, but she keeps winning, and she's clearly finding ways to prevent her opponents from getting the better of her. So, whether you think it's exciting or not, Paige Correa has a winning style.
Well, 7 by decision. The only knockout happened back in Brazil. I think the fight was stopped because the time of the fight says 0.00. So I think it was one of those fights that basically they stopped at the end of the round. But that was back in 2013. But she did a lot of fights. She did 4 fights last year.
Yeah, and you know
what?
This
is pretty impressive.
This is Shayna Baszler's official UFC debut. So up till now, she'd been an Invicta fighter. So we're gonna get to find out what she's like now, starting over fresh.
Now we're going to talk about someone's nickname coming up in the news segment, but I did want to touch on the nicknames for Baszler. The Queen of Spades, the epitome of awesomeness, the submission magician, and the savior of entertainment.
Is it any wonder that she and Ronda Rousey are friends when she has nicknames like that? I mean, they're both clearly pro wrestling fans.
The submission magician, I love that nickname.
Queen of Spades was always my favorite because in Baszler's first fight on The Ultimate Fighter, she gave her opponent a spade. She gave her the Queen of Spades as like a message to her, like, this is me, this is who I am, and you're going to lose. Didn't go her way, but I thought that was a hell of a way to introduce herself to the opponent when they had the official weigh-in.
What about Tony Ferguson and Danny Castillo? We talked about this when we started the show. Who do you have in this fight?
I would go with Tony Ferguson.
Really?
I think he's the better striker of the two of them.
Castillo might argue with you on that one.
I'm sure he'd be happy to argue with me about that one, but look at the way Ferguson has won his fights. I mean, you go back all the way to 2009, TKO, KO, KO, TKO, KO, TKO. He finishes people.
He does, and Castillo does ping-pong wins and losses a few times on his record, but, I'm trying to think of a time when he knocked out Shamar Bailey back at UFC 139 back a few years ago. Yes, he does tend to go more for a decision, but I think when he goes for a decision, I think he just doesn't have enough time. I think he's more. I love to see him in a 5-round main event fight. I know we're not going to have that here, but I think if you give this guy 5 rounds, he can really show you his endurance in the 4th and 5th.
I'm going to respectfully disagree, and I'll tell you why. El Kukui is 30, and Castillo is 35, and Castillo's career dates all the way back to WEC. He's been around a long time. He's taken a lot of damage in that time. Ferguson is younger, fresher. I think in a 5-round fight, his cardio and stamina would be the better of the two of them.
But Team Alpha Male is known for their cardio.
Yeah, they are, but there's the age difference here, and there's the experience difference here. Younger fighter, less beatings. I would favor Ferguson. I don't care if Castillo is part of Team Alpha Male. In this case, I'm going to just go ahead and say it doesn't make a difference.
I'm going to go with Castillo. We'll see what happens on Saturday, but we should talk the main event for the Bantamweight title, the rematch, TJ Dillashaw against Renan Barao. Will Dillashaw defy the odds again?
Is he the dog for the second fight? You're telling me he's a dog again in this one?
I actually don't know that one, to be honest.
Usually the champion is the favorite. I mean, there's been exceptions to that rule, but in this case, I would be shocked if TJ is still being disrespected to that degree.
Well, as I look that up, give me your prediction for this fight.
I think TJ Dillashaw found the key to unlock Renan Barao, and I don't see how that key has been changed. I know they say that Renan Barao is taking this fight more seriously, but that just claims that he wasn't taking the last fight seriously, and I don't buy that.
No?
No, I think Renan Barao took every fight seriously and just finally ran into the one guy who figured out his style and knew a way that he could overwhelm him.
No, you're right. Dillashaw is the favorite at minus 145. Barao plus 125.
Well, that's almost a coin flip, but at least Dillashaw's the favorite. At least he's not,
Barely.
plus 800 like he was last time.
Barely a favorite, though. I mean, this card, overall, it's pretty amazing because a lot of the fights are coin flip fights. The only one that really stands out is is Ferguson Castillo, with Ferguson being a minus 250 to Castillo's plus 210.
See? There you go. That's what I'm talking about. Ferguson is the better fighter of the two.
We'll see what happens. I'm sticking with my prediction. You know me.
Yeah, I know. You'll
So
go out on a limb here. You're the Okap of this show.